Chapter 1. Foundational Understanding of Anger. In our first years of life, our sense of the world is directly formed by how those who raise us, interact with us, provide for us what is essential for us to live. There is no separate sense of self. In later childhood, how they see us is how we see ourselves, but we are still deeply craving their approval as they teach us the difference between safe, unsafe, reward, punishment, self-reliance, obedience, etc. In the beginning, there is no dualism. There is only one in the mind of a baby. Further on, there is tentative self-reliance, a separation between you, but still my well-being relies on your attention to detail and what you teach me. I am learning to resist and say no. I am endlessly curious with stronger preferences and sometimes tantrum-backed insistence on having things my way. Seeds of dualistic thinking start to sprout. You and I are not the same. And if you love me, you will give me what I want. You will give me what I want. Without intentional growth, these beliefs can last into adulthood, as some of us know. Without intentional growth beyond my way, many relationships in the adult world turn into power struggles and anger. Developmentally, children not yet ready for nuance, they are trying many things for the first time, and their minds are not yet able to interpret accurately. To learn, children thrive on clear categories: safe or unsafe, fair or unfair, right or wrong, is this a duck or a dog, and can I cross the street now? In fact, dualistic thinking is not only natural, it is necessary. It gives structure to us learn boundaries, recognize danger, and establish a foundation for making choices. A child who touches a hot stove does not need a nuanced philosophy of heat. They need a clear yes and no, a black and white distinction that protects them. Dualism, at this stage, keeps us safe. A strong belief in right and wrong develops, although necessary, the foundation for judgment of self and others begins to grow. For a while, it works. But as we grow, life itself becomes more complex. We discover that people we love are capable of both kindness and cruelty. We find that situations are rarely pure good or pure evil. We realize that truth is sometimes shrouded in mystery. If we cling to dualism into adulthood, we risk oversimplifying life and oversimplifying people. Nowhere is this more evident than in our relationships. From relationships with authority to relationships with friends and partners. Dualistic thinking divides the world into winners and losers, allies and enemies, right and wrong. In conflict, it tempts us to see ourselves as righteous and others as guilty. We may believe others should be punished, but we want mercy for ourselves. In anger, these beliefs push us toward judgment instead of curiosity, separation instead of tribalism instead of unity. Think of how often arguments spiral because one person insists on being right, while the other refuses to be wrong, often in significant relationships in which the intent is to come out together, not apart. The dualistic frame reduces the richness of human experience to a courtroom drama where someone must be guilty and someone must be innocent. But real life is rarely that tidy. We are all some part of whatever conflict arises. Maturity invites us to move beyond dualism into a deeper way of seeing. This does not mean abandoning truth or pretending that right and wrong do not exist. Rather, it means holding truth with humility, recognizing that people are more than their worst moments, knowing that we can be wrong, and acknowledging that we ourselves are a mixture of light and shadow. When we grow past dualism, relationships begin to change. Instead of asking, who is right and who is wrong, we begin asking, what can I learn from this? Do I really understand how the other thinks or feels and why? Am I talking over them instead of listening? What could I do that would bring us back together in this conversation? What leads to growth and compromise? Anger shifts in this light. Instead of weaponizing it to prove a point, we can channel it toward deeper understanding, stronger boundaries, action. It is a simple and clear choice that takes great effort, determination, and practice we want to offer you here. Those skills that we are not born with, and most of us were never taught. Dualism helps us begin life, but only growth beyond dualism helps us live it well. The journey from simplicity to depth is the very journey of maturity. The difference between anger that destroys and anger that transforms. Story. Mark and Elena had been married for 15 years. They loved each other deeply, but over time their arguments began to follow the same painful pattern. Whenever a conflict arose about money, parenting, or even what to do on the weekend, Mark felt the need to prove he was right. Elena, in turn, felt cornered and pushed back with equal force. For each of them, every disagreement became a courtroom. One would argue like a prosecutor, the other like a defense attorney. Someone had to win, and someone had to lose. The issue at hand, a late bill, an unwashed dish, a missed phone call, was rarely the true source of the tension. The real problem was the lens they were using. They saw conflict through dualistic thinking. Right versus wrong, guilty versus innocent. They forgot to be curious. At first, the arguments ended quickly, but the hurt lingered. Elena began to feel that Mark cared more about being correct than being close. Mark began to feel that Elena cared more about resisting him than resolving the issue. Slowly, resentment crept in. One evening, after another tense exchange, Elena said quietly, "Mark, I don't want to keep fighting about who's right. I want to know that we're in this together." Her words stopped him cold. For the first time, he realized that his need to win was making them both lose. They began seeing a counselor who challenged them to shift the question in their arguments. Instead of asking who is right, they became more curious about each other when in tension. Learn to ask more than assume, what do I need to understand about how my partner is feeling right now? And ask them, considering how we stay connected when in disagreement, and to reflect together later on, what does our relationship need right now? Instead of insisting on winning, they practiced listening with curiosity. Instead of focusing on blame, they worked toward understanding. It was easy. Old habits die hard. But slowly, the tone of their marriage changed. Conflict still came, but the battles ended more quickly. They learned to see one another, not as opponents to defeat, but as partners searching for a way forward. Because they want to go forward together. Dualistic thinking had strained their marriage. Learning to move beyond it, began to heal it. Reflective questions. 1. Have you ever found yourself treating disagreements like a courtroom, where someone must be right and the other must be wrong? How did it go? 2. How has this kind of dualistic thinking affected your closest relationships? 3. What could change trying to win? You asked yourself, what does our relationship need most right now? Or ask your partner, what do most want me to understand about you right now? Or, what could be different if you could see things also from their perspective? What questions might you ask? 5. Are you willing to exchange judgment for curiosity and see what happens,